I'm Dani Valent, and this is Dirty Linen, the podcast that takes the issues the hospitality industry finds hard to air in public and shakes them all about. To wrap up the first week of Dirty Linen, we're chatting to two very different restaurateurs. Ganeev Bains owns Ish restaurant in Fitzroy. It's a progressive Indian restaurant. And Toby Kingsley is the manager of the Cherry Tree Hotel, a backstreet pub that's been getting through the pandemic in some fun and interesting ways. It's been a pretty crazy week in Victoria and Melbourne in particular. We saw the restrictions not ease as expected, and diner confidence seemed to plummet. We saw no-shows and cancellations increase. It's certainly been an interesting week. Ganeev Bains is the owner of Ish, a progressive Indian restaurant in Fitzroy. Ganeev, how's it going?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. It's been, I guess, a stressful few days. Things were beginning to get better for us. As I told you earlier as well, we started seeing a rise in customers. The people were confident, they were wanting to come out, and things were good for over the last 3 weeks. But then we saw a real dip, as you know.
What happened on Saturday?
So basically I was just running some errands for my restaurant, and I just got a notification on a tweet, and I saw that this announcement's been made. And so basically, probably about an hour or 2 hours later, we were fully booked that night, and then I started getting a couple of calls for concerned customers saying that we want to cancel, and which was fine though, because new bookings came through and it was all good. But then I noticed on Monday, like the website traffic dipped, my Google traffic, on analytics dipped, and I wasn't getting any new bookings. We used to usually get, like on a Sunday, you might get 10, 15 or more new bookings come through. On a Monday, I didn't see that happen. And then I was just getting a bit concerned. And then on Monday, I was getting calls for tables of 8 and 6 that were wanting to cancel as well. So I started wondering, is this just me or is this happening to everyone? So I sort of got onto this group that you set up, which was the Hospitality Owners Group. And I thought I'll ask the question, and then I guess I wasn't the only one, and I spoke to a few other owners. Yeah, so that's where we were at.
You had one party that sounded like it was going to be a special night.
Yeah, it was going to be an engagement. So someone was going to be proposing to their partner, and he was just sort of finalizing the date. It was going to be mid-July or maybe in the first week of July, depending on when he did it. And obviously we can't go through with that anymore either. So yeah, it is what it is, I guess.
How do you feel about it?
Look, I understand, of course, people are concerned, but then at the same time, I think because restaurants were starting to get back up and things were looking good for us, and things now again, I think it's going to push us back by a few weeks because the consumer confidence is gone. We're seeing all these headlines. So it is, I won't say depressing, but I guess it doesn't feel nice, but I guess we've just got to keep pushing through, and hopefully the news cycle changes and the cases go down and we're able to see some change, and we maybe have some looser restrictions starting towards, the 19th of July. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And we just do whatever we can. So we protect our customers, looking after our staff as we've always done. So we're just going to keep doing the same. So at least when you come to our restaurant, you're going to feel safe. You're going to see that we're following all the rules. You're doing everything as planned. So we're doing our bit, and let's just keep pushing.
It's tough, isn't it? Because, if you're sanitizing like crazy and you're following all the guidelines once people come to the restaurant, but if people aren't even getting as far as looking at the website, then it doesn't matter what you do once they arrive, does it?
No, it doesn't really matter because, of course, like I was, people were feeling very confident and people were going to the shopping centers and whatnot. That might have led to certain spikes and increases, or whether people went for, whatever they did, whether it was, I don't even think it was the Black Lives Matter march as much as it was mostly, as they're saying, community transmission, people having large gatherings at homes, not even in restaurants, because in restaurants we didn't even have large groups and we follow all the precautions. But yeah, it is the way it is.
So how do you feel about the decision? Do you think it was the right decision to keep the restaurant restrictions mostly where they were?
Obviously Dan's being, a bit precautious and stuff. But if you're looking at countries around the world, you look at what's happening in the US or India where I'm from and things like that. Like we're in a much better position. We're seeing maybe, a few double-digit rises, but I think when you do open things up, you are going to have spikes. We are going to have these sort of issues that are going to come up. But then that was the idea for us to close down for 2 or 3 months to, shore up the hospitals, get your ventilators in place, get all the beds up, get everything done, get your, they have the COVID Safe app. So, I mean, as things ease up, it's inevitable. It is going to happen. If it doesn't happen in Victoria, it's probably going to happen somewhere else. It is going to happen. It's just about how I think we handle it. And if we keep shutting down, I think maybe that's not going to be good for the economy either. Like it has to be done in a more planned and better approach. Personally, what I feel is like, I mean, if the, I mean, not the media or if the premier or the prime minister, they go out there and say, yes, we are going to open things up, we're going to have a rise, but we're okay with that. Because then I think it doesn't hit those sort of headlines. That's what I think personally. Like if we're prepared for a certain number of cases to come up.
Yeah, sure. I guess, yeah, when there's increased people in the community, there is going to be community transmission, but I guess they're just trying to keep that reproduction number down. Yeah, it's a tricky one.
It is. Like I think I read the R naught was like above 1.5 or something. So yeah, I mean it is going to happen. Or otherwise, then we just have to follow a elimination, strategy. But I think what we're trying to do here is suppression. So you're going to see spikes and things like that.
Do you think that you've been particularly badly affected because you're in the north of Melbourne, close to some of the local government areas that have been identified as hotspots?
Yeah, that's something that I believe, but I'm not sure, which is why I was asking around to see how everybody else is going. I still actually don't know because I haven't seen enough information for me to sort of draw a conclusion. I mean, it's all anecdotal, I guess, at the moment.
When some of your customers were cancelling, when some of your customers were cancelling, were they talking about the hotspots, for example?
No. So they just said, oh, I have a table of 6 or I have a table of 8, and we have a few people coming from different suburbs, and then seeing the news and what's happening, we're not feeling too confident about it, basically. Or there was a larger group, as well. So then they, again, same thing, like, some of them were confident while some of them weren't. So a smaller group came, So it's sort of like that. So they're not saying that it's because you're in Fitzroy. They're just saying that because of what they're seeing in the news and there's a second wave and whatnot. So that's what's scaring them at the moment.
And so what are you doing? Are you considering any extra precautions to give that extra level of safety when people do arrive?
Yes. So what I have decided to do is, in addition to all the practices that we are following, is to get a thermal temperature meter so I can check their temperatures as well. So, I mean, if someone potentially, could be carrying temperature or has a temperature, so we can obviously try and do that. And I think it's more from a psychological point of view as well. It gives people that sort of level of security as well to sort of see that, okay, fine, there's no one in this restaurant at the moment who probably has fever, So I'm doing that now. So that's what I'm doing, because I think you want to make people feel nice and safe once they're in. So I think that's going to be an extra layer, which I think will make people feel nice.
And so how are you feeling about the next month or two?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the next couple of weeks, to be honest, because it's hard to sort of think that far ahead.
It's so hard, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, I'm really curious to see how the weekend goes. So far we're half booked at the moment for the restaurant. So we'll see. I'm really curious to see what the news cycle is going to be, because I'm afraid I may have more cancellations, is what I'm sort of wondering. Is that going to happen? Am I going to have another 10, 15 people drop out, by Friday? So I guess it all depends on how things go and what the transmission rates are. And then we'll see. And then only then I can sort of draw a conclusion to see how the following weeks are going to be. But I think it will get better. So, I mean, I am optimistic. So
I'm glad that this situation hasn't knocked all the optimism out of you. When I come to Ish next time, what do you recommend that I order?
I reckon, I don't know if you've had a duck korma.
No.
It's quite nice. We recently put it on the menu. So it's a duck leg which we confit. So we do spice rub. So it's a dry spice rub, and we have like cumin, coriander seeds, fennel, and then you put cumin, coriander powder, and garam masala and things like that. And then we put it in the spice rub in a gas stove. And we leave that there for about 12 hours, and then they add some oil, and then we cook it in the oven, confit the duck, and then they cook it and make the skin nice and crispy, and then you serve that with a korma sauce. So you've had a korma sauce. It's like
Yes.
a
Yeah,
cashew
yeah.
korma, which has got a similar spices to that. So it's like an authentic korma sauce, but with a nice duck, and you serve that with some silver beet. It's really nice.
Wow, I love the way that you combine some of those European techniques with the Indian flavors, and I know that I can just see that in my mind. The presentation is just so beautiful. I'm sure it looks great on the plate.
It's really nice. Sort of falls off the bone. Everyone really loves it. So yes, I look forward to you trying it. Yeah, it'll be nice.
Yeah, well, I look forward to coming along, and hopefully before too long it can be a full buzzing restaurant. Everyone at a good temperature and the streets with a few more people on them and a bit more confidence in the air. It's interesting, that balance between, the rules are one thing and then confidence is another, and they don't necessarily align, do they?
No, there's not, because like as you know, there was a restriction on you can only have a table of six, but now you can have a table of 10. But you don't see that in the news, or you don't see people talking about that, because everyone's now focused on, the 50 restriction maybe not happening, or the, rise in cases happening. So, I mean, certain things have eased up, as you can see as well. Of course, certain things that were supposed to get further remove the restrictions, those have, not happened, but it's not all, doom and gloom, but let's see.
Well, I wish you very bright horizons, and hope you can soon push the future out beyond a couple of weeks and just look forward to some really good months and years ahead at your lovely restaurant. So, Thanks, Ganeev.
Thank you for that, Dani.
Look forward to some more bookings coming in for you this weekend.
Thank you so much, and everything I think you've done so far has been really great. Like in terms of having all the information on your website, setting up the forums, and especially in the beginning, everyone was so stressed. You didn't know where to get the information, whatnot. So that was really helpful. And even now, I think this podcast and other things that you're doing. So it's really good. Thanks for that. For everyone, I guess.
No worries. Well, I don't know how we edit around the nice things you're saying about me on this podcast, because this is about you. But thanks so much for saying that. And,
no, but it's true.
I'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Toby Kingsley is the manager of the Cherry Tree Hotel, tucked away in the back streets of Cremorne, a little subset of Richmond in the inner city of Melbourne. It's a real neighbourhood pub. There's lots of graphic design studios and startups in the street surrounding, as well as a lot of funky residential homes. It's a real community place, and they've been innovating, pivoting like crazy, and making their way through the deep woods of the pandemic. How are you doing, Toby?
Yeah, real well, thanks, Dani. How about yourself?
I am not too bad. Loving hearing your stories. And it was someone who got in touch with me on social media who told me about a very interesting, I don't know, interesting is the right word, but a no-show story. We were hearing a lot of no-shows and cancellation stories this week in Victoria, and I just wanted you to talk me through your interesting situation.
Yeah, sure thing. Look, we had a booking for last Friday from a local business that books with us fairly frequently for 20 people for 5 hours, sort of from midday till 5 o'clock. Friday's being a really busy time for us, even pre-lockdown, and especially now even post-lockdown. They did ring in the morning to ask if they could increase the numbers, and look, we're limited to 20 people inside, so we had to knock them back on that. Got to 12:15, didn't see anyone there, sort of rang them up, asked if they were still coming down, and they sort of said, well, actually, busy morning, didn't have a chance to call you, sorry, we just decided we'd have a barbecue instead.
My God.
I think at the time they kind of viewed it was the person involved sort of thought, I was sorry for the inconvenience. And I'm like, well, it's a bit more than an inconvenience. I might have used some salty language at the time. But I sort of said, look, I've got to run. I'll see you later. And we sort of stewed on it because we'd had that booking for a week and the phone's been ringing non-stop since we reopened, and people trying to book with us, and we've only got such a limited space that most of the time we have to knock people back. And it's a special thing for people to come to the pub again, insofar as that look in people's eyes when they haven't had a tap beer in 3 months. It's been quite wonderful. So it's sort of, it was upsetting for everyone that gets to miss out that day because, this no-show, but also from a financial point of view for the pub, if we don't fill these seats, we're in deep trouble. So, we thought about it and thought, well, we can't really sort of take this lying down as such. So we put together a bill sort of predicated on, $50 a head for 5 hours, which is quite conservative, I would say, for that. It was $1,000 at that point. And put together a letter with it sort of saying, look, this is the situation. We're in, we're in dire straits here. And, we'd like to bill you for this, but we will apply that to your next booking. So we, decided we'd go down to their office. We've got a ute. The pub's got a ute. We've been using it since the start of lockdown. We dressed it up with the pub logo all over it and mounted a flag with the pub flag on it. And we had an old PA from our old pub lying around that's quite hefty that we mounted on the back. We'd do deliveries and we'd play music as we're driving around doing deliveries so people would hear us coming, and trying to sort of uplift the community.
What would you play?
All sorts of things. Like Baker Street would always melt the crowd, like people would be dancing in the street to that. We built this city when we're driving past building sites, that kind of thing.
That's so great. I love it. If cheesy music isn't going to get us through this, then I don't know what is.
I think it's been good for us as well. It's, you could have a really dark day sometimes here, really worrying about things, and then you go on the road and, drop off, fruit and veggies or booze or whatever to people's places playing tunes. And, it's just funny. We loaded up the rig and drove out the front there and played the Angels. Am I ever going to see your face again?
Inspired, absolutely inspired.
That's the thing. And look, to be honest, they've been really good about it. They paid the bill, and I think they kind of realise that this is sort of not the time to be doing this sort of. They felt bad about it. They've done the right thing by us. I can't thank them enough for that, for sort of seeing around this. I think sort of. For 20 people to pull out here in the dining room, we can normally fit 100 people in there. It is an inconvenience, but these days it's sort of it's a big deal, and it's particularly for even places smaller than ours. They would really suffer from this sort of thing.
It's a funny time, isn't it? Because you're not only running your business, you're also communicating to the dining public, the rules, and not only the rules, but the rules that they are this week and the rules that they are next week and the rules that are coming up. I mean, it must be so challenging.
It is, yeah. Look, I mean, it was challenging for us as a business to find the rules to begin with. Like the announcement was made by Daniel Andrews that, in 2 weeks' time we can reopen, which we were stoked about, but it took another 8 days to get the nitty-gritty on what the rules of engagement were, and they were really important, A, because we want to abide by them, and B, that would determine how we would book out the space. So the rules were presented, then they were rescinded, then republished sort of with, I think, 5 days to go at that stage. So it was cutting it fine for us. It was difficult to find on their websites, and it hasn't been backed up with a sort of a public education campaign, essentially. So it's been left to us to educate people how it all works now, and the rules are different state to state. People get confused as to, think other states' rules apply with us, that sort of thing. And it's hard because, people aren't used to coming to a pub and having to sit down, stay put, getting full table service, not approaching a bar, that sort of thing. It's a foreign concept, and I get it. We've had to do a lot of study to work out what to do, but for the average punter that doesn't work in the industry, it's a whole new way of doing things.
How do you train your staff to do that, to communicate that, and to stay positive in amongst it all?
Look, we've tried to make it fun. Like it's a new skill for us doing full table service. Look, I sort of liken it to getting back on a bicycle I haven't ridden in 14 years that I wasn't good at riding to begin with. But the crew has adapted to it very, very, very well. They've had to adapt to a lot in the last few months. Look, we try and crack a joke with it all, and that with people, it's a mouthful sometimes. It's people are quite often surprised as to how things work. But look, the punters have been great too. Like we're chewing through the hand sanitizer here. They're all availing themselves to it. We've got it set up everywhere. It involves doing a lot of cleaning these days, which is, it has to be done. It's been good. We've got a couple of nursing students working for us, so we started getting into the habit of keeping things hygienic and super hygienic sort of from February onwards. But it's a learning experience still.
How are you feeling about the weeks and months ahead, Toby?
Cautiously optimistic to realistic. I can't sort of discount the possibility that, there could be a second wave. We might have to go back to square one, but it's going to be easier second time around because we've done it already before, and then we can snap back to doing what we're doing. I'm hopeful as well that, that things will get better, that restrictions particularly, if we get to, 50 limit, that's really good for us. 20 is still tight, but we're still clawing back. We're hoping to be sort of back in the black within the period of maybe, 3 to 4 weeks, which is great. Look, everyone's stayed employed. We've kept everyone on. We've even grown a little bit. We've found a whole bunch of new customers during this time. But, I'm still a little bit, I'm not buying huge amounts of product, let's put it that way. I'm still feeling things out as to, where things are going. I guess it's a wait and see thing. I think realistically we could be stuck with this for a while, and, we have to make do with what we have and sort of continue to keep sort of, coming up with new ideas. Look, at the moment, we're a grocer shop, we're a bakery, we're a cafe, we're a bottle shop, we're a delivery business, on top of being a pub now. We just got to keep trying new things and whatever it takes to stay afloat.
I'm going to finish the last podcast for the first week of Dirty Linen with a very important question. What makes a good chicken parmigiana?
Our wonderful, beautiful chef Nathan is an inspired man. He had a meat smoker sitting in his, what he calls his boneyard. He's got a backyard at home full of just the most wonderful pieces of hospitality equipment. We found out, we were talking, he says, I've got a smoker in my backyard. This is in the middle of the lockdown. I was like, good Lord, mate, let's go and get it. So we got it. We set it up on the street and started smoking things. Nath's curing and smoking his own hams now.
Wow.
And putting it on the parmas, and it is to absolutely die for. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle of a parma. There's that, and I suppose at the moment it's the ability to deliver it really quickly while the chips are still fresh. That's what makes a good parma.
That's life goals right there, I reckon.
Yeah. It was 70% of what we were selling food-wise when we were in lockdown. It was remarkable. I think
Seriously.
People were just nostalgic for a parma. And look, we weren't relying on third-party delivery. We'd rush it out there. We ended up having races around the corner to see how fast we could get to certain houses that kept ordering off us. But, yeah, that's the trick. You got to be quick with this. But, yeah, that ham, I'm telling you, it's to die for. It's wonderful.
Sounds so good. I'm coming down for one. Thank you so much, Toby, for rounding off the first week of Dirty Linen. It's been so great to have a chat. It's great to hear the optimism in your voice, and I'm sure the cherry tree is going to go from strength to strength. Thanks a lot, mate.
Thanks, Dani. Cheers.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about. We spend a week thrashing around each issue, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This